Hi, I'm Paul Perdue and I am an infrastructure nerd.
And I'm Mary Jo Boyd and I'm a legal technologist.
And today we're going to talk about receipt allocation, or more importantly, the rules that make that happen.
Attorneys really like to split up the money properly. They want to make sure that the originators are getting the right amount, the of-counsels are getting the right amount.
Sure, it's not always just a matter of who did the work. Sometimes they want to take some money off the top, and we can do that by defining something called fee compensation rules.
Can you show us how that works?
Sure, I can. Of course, the fee compensation rules live in tabs, and they live here in the client file. So if we pull up Michael Larson and go over to this setup screen, we'll see this button called Fee Compensation Rules, and below it we have a little indication that percentages have been defined for this particular matter. So if we click on that, we'll see that the firm is getting 25% of all timekeepers, and Michael Larson is getting 10% of all timekeepers. Now keep in mind, these rules are for what comes off the top, with the remainder being divvied up according to who did the work on a prorated basis. So what this means here is that we have 35% being allocated off the top, with the remaining 65% being divided up among the working timekeepers based on the amount of time they spent or billed for on the payment that is being reflected, as it's being reflected. Now if we go out of here and move a couple more clients down, we'll see percentages not defined for Andrew Gilbert's auto accident. So if we go back into fee comp rules now, we are looking at a blank slate. Our fee compensation rules table is blank. So let's add one. And by add one, I'm meaning let's add a table that has several entries. So when I start with a new entry, I am making a line, an entry, a single line in the fee compensation rules table. So something, of course, called a fee compensation rule. So I want to take a certain percentage and give it to a certain timekeeper. And let's say I want Ron Anderson to, as a primary or secondary or originating. This is just a way of defining what type of rule this is, why they're getting this money. It doesn't have any significance except for how it can print in reports. Will receive 10% of receipts taken from all timekeepers. Now you can further define that we want 10% of all receipts that Michael Larson is getting compensation for, or that a certain level of attorney, because tabs does let us set up levels. Some of you may not have levels set up, but they can be set up. So you can say he gets a certain percentage of what the paralegals bill and get paid for, or he gets a certain percentage of what the associates bill and get paid for. Here we're going to say all timekeepers. And we can say all statements, all receipts, which is typically what's happening, but you can also say only statements dated in, let's say, the first 6 months that the case is open, or only statements. Hello? Hello? You said, may I please speak to and that's all I got. Hello? May I ask who's calling? Fine, we don't accept telephone solicitations. Please take us off your list. And get a better phone system. I said we don't accept telephone solicitations. Please take us off our list, your list, and also get a better phone system so you can hear everything that's going on when the person is talking to you. Hey, are you still there? Can you hang up the phone? Can you drop this call and go on to the next call? Learn how to use your software. The auto dialer will give you another call in a minute. Hang up on this one. Thank you. My God. She was learning, yes, she was learning. Okay. Can you hang up the phone? Can you leave me alone? These fee compensation rules live, of course, in tabs because tabs is where you're putting your payments in, and they live right here in the client file. So if we pull up Michael Larson, for instance, and go over to this Setup tab, we'll see a Fee Compensation Rules button down here, and then a note underneath that indicates either that percentages have or have not been defined. In this instance, for Michael Larson, for his Larson versus Belcour case, compensation rule percentages have been defined. So if we click on this button, we will see that the firm is getting 25% of everything that comes in payment-wise, and Michael Jensen is getting 10% of everything that comes in payment-wise. Now keep in mind, these fee compensation rules are an off-the-top sort of thing. And what that means is they are taken off the top of any payment that's received before the remainder that's left to apply is divvied up among the people that did the work, the working timekeepers. So in this example, we've got 35% being allocated off the top, and the remaining 65% is being divvied up as the payment is entered among the people that actually did the work. So for example, if we had a $1,000 payment, 25% or $250 is going to the firm, 10% or $100 is going to Michael Jensen, and the remaining $650 will then be divvied up on a prorated basis among the people that did the work for which that $1,000 is reflecting. Now, if we get out of here and move down a couple matters, we'll find somebody that does not have percentages defined. Andrew Gilbert, for his auto accident matter, does not have any fee compensation rule percentages defined, so we'll click the button and now we'll see a clean slate. And if I click New, what I'm doing is adding one fee compensation rule that will appear back here in the table, and I can add as many rules as I want, but this screen here represents one rule being added. So I might say, for instance, that Ronald Anderson, who as you can see here in the background is the originator for this matter, is going to get 10% of the money that comes in because he brought this client into the firm. So we'll say Ronald Anderson, as an originator, will get 10% of all receipts from all timekeepers. Now you can go in and say he only gets receipts, 10% of receipts from Robert Burns or Kendra Michaels, or both of them, or all. That's what was defaulting. Or you can also define this by level, and this is very common. You might say, well, this person gets 25% of all receipts that are brought in by paralegals or associates. It's very common for partners to get a percentage of receipts brought in by associates, or for senior partners to get a percentage of receipts brought in by associates. We're going to leave it at all. And down here we're saying forever for all money that comes in. You could instead say for the first 6 months, for example, or up until we get to $10,000 in receipts. After that, he doesn't get 10%. That's what these buttons down here mean. I'm going to leave them at all, and I'm going to click OK. I can add another rule then. As I said, I can say that somebody else, maybe there were 2 people that actually originated this matter. Maybe Robert Burns also brought this client in. So he can also get a certain percentage. And you define the percentage, you define who it's coming out of, and now we have 2 rules. Now, up here we have the ability to have custom, shared, and to use existing tables. Let's say we have a situation where Ronald Anderson and Robert Burns are always bringing in new clients and always getting 10% each of all the matters. Well, I can save this one as a custom, and then I can go into another matter, and let's find another matter that doesn't have them defined. Daniel Klein's matter does not. And we can go here and we can share that first matter, which was Andrew Gilbert. And what it does is it brings up that table, but doesn't allow me to edit it. And when I save this, I'm setting up a shared compensation based on that other matter. If this other matter's compensation changes, if I were to go back in here and change these rules, any other matter that shared this table would also change. So if all of a sudden the firm decided, well, we're now, from this point forward, we're only going to give Ronald and Robert 5% of all the receipts that come in. Maybe they've changed the rules. All you'd have to do here, if these tables were shared, if other tables were shared with this, is change it here, and all the other shared tables would change as well. Another way to set up rules, let's find one more that doesn't have any percentages defined, is instead of sharing, to use an existing table as a basis. In this example, we'll share or use the same matter, the auto accident for Andrew Gilbert, but we're only using it as a basis or as a starting point. You'll notice we can edit, we can add new rules, we can edit the existing ones. We aren't sharing that original table, we're just using it to populate kind of as a starting point, a jumping off point in defining these rules. So, to summarize, the rules are found in the client section of tabs. When you get the matter up that you want to look at, it's on the Setup tab. This note down here indicates whether or not there are percentages defined. And if they are defined or if they're not, getting into that table is done here. And when you're in a rule, you can define that a certain timekeeper or the firm has either, if it's a timekeeper as primary, secondary, originating, will get a certain percentage of certain number of timekeepers or all timekeepers, and you can do it for all statements and all receipts, or you can define a date range and a dollar value range for those receipts coming into the firm. Well, there you have it, fee compensation rules, a very easy way to define percentages that come off the top of any payment that comes into the firm.
And that's one more way that we can help you worry less
And practice more.